Hello everyone. The purpose of this video is to review some of the work that we did in class a few weeks ago at the University of Minnesota School of Social Work. This is from the Advanced Practice Evaluation course when we talked about graphing for single system designs. My name is Professor Amy Krensman, and I'm just going to review on this video some of what we did in class earlier this month, so that you have a video you can go back to in order to create your own graphs for your own single system design. What we'll cover in this short video is graphing for single system designs using Microsoft Excel and an IBM compatible computer. We'll cover 4 topics: when you have one target and an A-B design, when you have 2 targets in an A-B design, when you have one target in an A-B design with only one wave of baseline data, and when you have one target in a case study or a B design. In other words, the situation where you have no baseline data at all. How do you use Excel to produce your graphs? As you may recall in class, we used this example. This is data from a client measuring her blood sugar levels. And there were 8 waves of baseline data before the intervention began, and then there were 10 waves of data collected as the intervention began. And what you're looking at is one graphic display of this data. But we're going to take this data and we're going to regenerate the graph using Excel from the ground up. So you may remember in class that everyone used a worksheet in order to kind of re-engineer these data points. This is not something you'd really do with your real project, because with your real project you would know the data points going in. But just to recreate this graph as an example, you went to each data point and you figured out what value the point corresponded with on the y-axis, and that represents blood sugar. And you filled in the worksheet. And there in red, 250 is the value for the first wave of baseline data that you recreated. And in class, you may recall you filled out this worksheet, and then we moved to Microsoft Excel when the worksheet was all filled out in order to produce the graph. So we're going to do that next. So here we are in Excel. We've made the transition from PowerPoint to Excel, and that worksheet that I depicted on the previous screen, those values that you generated can now be entered here into Microsoft Excel so that it will look like this. And the idea that's important in generating a graph for single system design is that your baseline values are on one row, in this case row 6, and your intervention values are on row 7, the next row down. And that will help tell Microsoft Excel how to draw the lines in the way that you really want them drawn. So we're going to do that right now. The first step is to select from the baseline all the way over to the end of all the waves of data. So you've kind of selected the baseline and the intervention waves in just this way. And then we're going to use the wisdom of Microsoft Excel to help us produce the graph. So we're going to go up here and click Insert. And we're going to go to this box right here, which is a line chart. And we're going to choose this one. And as you can see, we just simply select it, and Microsoft Excel is smart enough to go ahead and really draw a beautiful graph for us just by knowing what we meant by the cells that we selected to begin with. So we're just now going to make a few edits, a few modifications to this graph. Along the x-axis, Microsoft Excel was smart enough to know that we meant waves of data, and in this case it's time in weeks. And along the y-axis, Microsoft Excel drew a range that captured our range of data. In this case, that represents blood sugar. So what we'll do first is we'll go ahead and why don't we add labels, axis titles, so that we can just simply select and type that this is time in weeks. And over here, what we have is blood sugar. And then we can give the chart a title, Client's Blood Sugar Levels over time. Okay, I think what I'd like to do now is just kind of make this a little larger. And we're going to just do a couple of other interesting things with the graph. So what it's done automatically is it's drawn the baseline values in blue and the intervention values in orange, which is very clear, and it's also automatically put a break between the waves that differentiate the A from the B phase. Now, to make it even clearer, one nice thing we can do is insert a shape, and the shape we'll choose is just going to be a straight line, and draw that straight line down the middle. And then I'm going to take the shape outline and just make it a little thicker so it's more obvious. And I'm going to change the color so it doesn't match either of the other colors. So now we have a nice red line dividing the A from the B phase. Another thing we can do is insert a text box, and we can mark that the A phase. I'm going to make it a little bigger, and then place that right in the middle here. And I'm just going to Control C to copy it and Control V to paste. It gives me another one. I'll put that guy over here. And then I can just delete this and call it B. So we've got a beautiful graph now. It has the automatically generated features of the baseline phase being blue, the intervention phase being orange, and we've added a line to differentiate the A from the B phase. We've marked it with text boxes to indicate the A and the B phases. So those are some additions that have made it nice and clear. We also added labels to the X and Y axis, and we've given it a title. Now, another question you may have is, what if I only have one wave of data at baseline? In other words, at this particular project, it's somewhat unusual that there were several waves, that is, several assessment points at baseline before the intervention started. And in real-time social work practice, it's often difficult or not feasible to collect multiple waves of baseline data. More likely, you will have one wave of baseline data or you'll have no waves of baseline data. So let's look at what that might look like. So I'm going to just go ahead and delete all the hard work we've done and go up to our data and imagine a scenario where we only have one wave of baseline data. So just to demonstrate what that would look like, I'm just going to delete the first 7 waves so that this wave in our new example becomes our baseline data wave. And then we would graph this the exact same way we just did. I'm going to select it like this. Insert the line chart. And then let's make this a little larger. So what Excel has done is it has given us just a single dot to represent that one baseline wave. And we can make the modifications that we made before. We can add an x-axis label, a y-axis label, a chart title. We can also go ahead and insert a shape, the line, and we can just put that line here. This is the line separating the A and B phase. Improve the weight of it, change the color. And then you have a nice looking graph that has one wave of baseline data. And you can go ahead and insert your text box to mark the A phase. And again, I do Control Copy. That's Control C, and Control V to paste. Gives me another one. Put that over here for the B phase. So that looks great. We can either add a chart title or delete this part. Fix. Things shift a little bit, so we'll just fix it. Now, when you're ready to insert this graph into your paper, you just select it, you right-click, you copy, and then you go into your word processing software, and you right-click and paste. And your graph can appear right within the flow of your paper. Now, you may have a situation where you have no baseline wave at all. And just to depict that, I will delete this column. And then you would just select the row. You wouldn't even need the word intervention. You just select your row, insert, creation of your line graph, and then you can add your axis titles, this one was blood sugar, and now there's no need to have an A or a B phase, because in this study design there is only the B phase. There are no waves at all of baseline. It was not possible in this scenario to collect any baseline data at all. This is a B phase or a case study design. And you notice that you don't need a key. You don't need at the bottom a blue line with a label on it saying intervention phase. You don't need that because there is no other line on the graph. There's just the blue line. So you can use the chart title to say client's blood sugar over time during intervention. Let's just make that bigger. And that's a nice clean looking chart. The last thing I want to demonstrate is a situation where you might have two targets that you want on the same graph. So I filled this in earlier. So we have data representing baseline measures of anxiety, and then measures of anxiety during the intervention, and baseline levels of depression, and waves of depression measured during the intervention. So you just entered the data in this stepwise manner. Baseline, line 6, intervention, line 7, the next baseline phase, line 8, the next intervention phase, line 9, and you would then select this whole group, and it follows exactly as previously demonstrated. You choose the line chart, and Excel knows what you meant when you entered the data in the way that you did, and it will show baseline anxiety in blue, and then the intervention anxiety in a darker orange, baseline depression in gray, intervention depression in gold, and you can go ahead and modify this chart in the same ways. Time in weeks, blood sugar. In this case, we can remove the title. We can insert the red line, insert the shape, and for shape we're just choosing a line. That's the default, and that looks pretty good if you like it, or you could change the color or the width. Let's insert the text boxes to indicate the A phase. Maybe make that a little bigger. Control C, Control V to make a copy. The B phase. And you're ready now to select this. Right click, copy it, and go into right into your manuscript, your draft of your paper, and right click again and paste your graph right in. Now to get it to go and be in the middle is a little tricky. Let's go up to Format. First you need Wrap Text, top and bottom. Then you can go up to Align and choose Center. And then that can be just inserted with your text above and below. Thank you for your attention to this video. I hope that it will help you draw beautiful graphs, and we look forward to seeing them in your final paper.